Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we'll get ready for the college football playoff national title game and implications therein for the Big 12 conference. Where does Chris Level's rooting interest lie? We'll get to that coming up, and also getting to Texas Tech falling at home in overtime to the Oklahoma Sooners. Where was it between valiant shorthanded effort and total no-show at home against a bottom 12 basketball team in Oklahoma? We'll chop it up next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Thanks for joining us again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, helping you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today with LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions may apply. Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, and Chris, we really have no rest for the weary, which certainly Mark Adams and the Red Raiders are at this point. We'll spend some time today looking ahead to a road trip you got coming up with Tech Hoops heading to Ames, Iowa, but unfortunately, heading to Ames, Iowa, still in search of their first conference win. OT it goes from the USA on Saturday night in Lubbock, but they come up against Oklahoma, and man, it's dig down deep time for that team right now.
Yeah, I often say to you and everybody, keep hope alive. But man, it was hard to envision. If you told me before this game that you weren't going to have Pop Isaacs, KJ Allen, Daniel Batcho, and Robert Jennings for a half, okay, it's hard for me to envision a scenario to where you do take them to overtime and or almost have a chance to win. But it was just disjointed. I think you've got a lot of people in kind of different spots against Oklahoma. And it's crazy. You mentioned going to Ames, Iowa, looking for your first conference win. Do you remember the game at Iowa State last year in basketball by chance?
Vaguely.
Okay. So this was the game, I want to say you had only 6 or 7 available players because of injuries and a bunch of failed, I guess, COVID tests. And so guys weren't even allowed to travel. And it's like, I mean, we saw KJ Allen play about 15, 20 minutes, and that was the most we'd seen him all of last year. And so it's just like, I'm like, is this like Groundhog Day? However, you had a really stable and good team last year. I still think you're just trying to figure out who in the heck you are right now. And it was just, but yeah, you're 0-3, man. And 2 of your home games are over with now. And you just look up and it's just, this league is just a monster. And it concerns me if you can't get it figured out quickly, because if you don't, you're going to be looking so far up at the standings, it's just going to be difficult to try to, regroup from that, or you're going to have to like go on a lengthy winning streak, to kind of compensate here for some of these games. But they fought at times. They played good defense at times, Casey. They hit shots at times, but there was too many times where it's just defensive lapses where you're just giving up open threes or a wide open layup, or you just simply can't score. And you've got guys either afraid to shoot it, uncomfortable with doing that, or just can't get a shot off. And that's not a good recipe.
No, not at all. And I was wondering if you could kind of tell me where to land on this scale that it seems like I'm experiencing as a Tech fan, and I'm hearing from other Tech fans in digesting that game, because it seems like it goes somewhere from short-handed effort, I guess, to, man, that was a no-show against a bad team in your own building. Maybe it was some of all of the above. I don't know. But where do you kind of fit in what you saw Saturday night on that kind of scale?
Yeah, it was it just seemed disjointed, I think is the best way to put it. And I think at times it looks like, maybe, hey, you're not playing with all kinds of effort, or there's and Mark said it after the game. We have too many times where guys just forget their assignment on defense or whatever it may be. And there's a couple of out of timeout situations toward the late in the game where you don't get a lot done. I mean, there was one with Lamar Washington where it looks like there's about 10 seconds left to go. Looks like you're down 3. It looks like he's trying to pass it into the post. It gets tipped. You don't even get a shot off. There's just some things like that. But this is part of youth. And again, this was Texas Tech's choice to go young here. But it's just, I think what I've gathered here with this team is that you can squeeze a lot out of them, but I'm just not sure how much is there, okay, to squeeze. And that's the hard part, because it's like at this point, DeMaurion Williams, it's just, I don't know if you can count on him in a big spot. Now, he does hit a big 3 at the end of the game. Kerwin Walton has just been and I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like he just hasn't done a whole lot at all. And then you go to Elijah Fisher, and it's like, okay, you see the talent, but you're looking off into the future, because this is the Big 12, and there are teams that are desperate, and they're scouting you, and they're going to pick you apart. And even Lamar Washington, has his moments where it looks really good, and then other times where it looks like he's a freshman still trying to figure some things out. Robert Jennings had some bright spots last night. But so ultimately what I'm saying is, when you don't have Pop, who I think has shown you quite a bit, and when you don't have Batcho, who we know what he's capable of, it's just, where does it come from? You're trying to squeeze water out of a rock. Well, where, other than O'Banner and Harmon, where does it come from? I think Jalen Tyson picked a night just to have a really, really bad game. He just really, really struggled and just wasn't his best game. And we've seen him where he's played well, but he was 1 of 8 and just didn't have it. And it was a night where his team desperately needed him to have it or something close to it, just because he just gave you not a whole lot on offense. And he really needed to give you something on offense, but it just wasn't there. It wasn't his night. But you're only going to get so many opportunities here, and you've got 15 regular season games left, and you've got to get this thing turned in a hurry.
Yeah, that was really just poor timing for Tyson to shoot the way that he did within that game. I know he's a much better shooter than that, but man, a really bad night to not be able to hit water if he fell out of a boat. And even after the rough night, one shot would have been nice, particular in a big moment way late. So it could have gone either way. We know that, but that was just some rough timing for I know that's a much better shooter than him.
It's just, and I think they gave him a chance. I think when you mentioned that shot at the end of regulation, and I think that's when it was. But you knew that Oklahoma was likely to focus on O'Banner and Harmon, because that's really who provided most of the offense. And so, like, okay, one of these guys is likely to be open. That's what we said on the broadcast, man. If whoever the other 3 guys, whoever it was that was in there, is likely going to have an open look. And sure enough, I mean, it was JT, and he just didn't have it last night, or whatever night it was against Oklahoma, but he just didn't have it. And so it was just one of those things, man. And it just, the margin for error for this team really, 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 really small. And I'm concerned that you may play Iowa State with no Pop Isaacs or Daniel Batcho. So that's what Mark Adams basically said, and possibly KJ Allen. I mean, so let me give you a quick update on what we know here on those 3 players.
But first, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager for a business, success this year depends on the team members you surround yourself with. And that's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, where you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for LinkedIn Jobs helps you find those candidates. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com. Post your job for free with LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions apply.
I mean, so let me give you a quick update on what we know here on those three players. Mark Adams says KJ Allen, lower leg issue. It's either groin or hamstring, something along those lines, soft tissue, either way, maybe a bit. He's like, it's not bad, but it may take a bit. Is a bit a week? Is that just the one game? Is it a couple of weeks? I don't know. So there's that one. Pop Isaacs, he's posted on all of his social media. He has a concussion. He was not there yesterday or against when the Oklahoma was in town, and he's wearing sunglasses on a social media post. I believe he's in protocol, so it's up to doctors to kind of it's kind of out of Tech's hands in some ways. It's like he's got to go through the protocol, and then Batcho's got a big old bandage on his hand where he's dislocated his finger. And Mark Adams says this may be kind of what we take to Iowa State, and so it may not include Pop Isaacs or Daniel Batcho or KJ Allen. So yeah, just hold on, and that's a ranked Iowa State team that is has not lost in the Big 12 yet, and so that's going to be a sold out crowd, and it's Lions Den meat necklace ? I don't know, we'll see.
Is there anything extra to read into you mentioning Pop Isaacs doing all the speaking on social media about the injury? Is there any foggy area? Like, is he concussed, or is it a player that thinks he's concussed? Just traumatized by Adam James sunglasses. Am I making too much?
No, I think there was the school indicates before the game on Saturday night that there was a head injury. And I believe when you put that together with what Pop Isaacs is basically telling you, and he wasn't there, which I think makes sense under the bright lights and all these things. And so I'm just putting his dad was there at the game, sitting, in
number one Twitter follow
of
2023, baby.
It's an interesting follow. Mr. Isaacs is very entertaining. There was a tweet at the end of
from one man that loves Lubbock to another.
Yeah, Zorro. I'll just say that to you. If you go find his Twitter account, Zorro, and blew my mind. Yeah, yeah, that's right. But he's a hoot, man. He's a hoot. But that's what I believe is the case, and so. You just have to kind of weather the storm a bit, and then because I do think if you have you're not real deep, I think that they've got to figure that part out, like or even looking ahead to next year. I mean, Kyron Lindsey is now official, the Georgia transfer. He would be playing big minutes right now for you if he was eligible right now. I wouldn't even rule him out as a potential starter. If he was playing for you right now. And so that says a lot to me about kind of what your depth looks like. And I think, last year you were just extremely deep, and it's tricky trying to manage all that. And that's what is dicey when you're trying to, how many pieces do we have? How many pieces can we keep happy? Is somebody going to get frustrated and bail out? I mean, all these different things, but you just really, really lack depth right now. That's quality depth. That is, that because think about that Kansas game last year, Cowan. In Lubbock, January the 8th, a year ago, no McCullough, no TJ Shannon play that night, and yet you beat Kansas, who was top 10 at the time, because you had Warren, Arms, Williams, Santos Silva, Nadolny, who played out of his mind that night. I mean, you had a lot of guys that were old that stepped up that gave you what you needed, and you just don't really have that established right now. You're still searching.
Yeah, the question my man Jimi Hendrix is asking on the album cover behind me: are you experienced? The answer is no for Texas Tech at this point in time. Before we move away from the basketball conversation because we want to give Texas Tech basketball fans or Red Raiders in general a quick pick-me-up from this disappointing basketball conversation by talking about Texas Christian competing for a national championship. How about that? Yeah! And what it'll mean for the Big 12 Conference possibly. But before we get to that, how about this question, Chris? Did the better team that was in uniform Saturday night?
Are you asking if did the better team win that was in uniform? I mean, so in other words, we're talking
teams that
Oklahoma.
lined up to play the game.
Yeah, I think the better team.
How disappointed should I even be? Look, I kind of so too, man. I know you gave away a home opportunity, a great environment, and you want to buck up and all that stuff, but I almost feel like you play that game 10 times with those two teams. It may be 50-50 at best.
Yeah, you're because what I thought when Oklahoma got up by about 11 or 13 points and they really just started knocking down shots from the perimeter, I thought, this was what I was afraid was going to happen because they've got shooters. And people will say, hey, Oklahoma's not very good. They're look, they may not be very good compared to everybody in the Big 12. However, nationally, I do think they're pretty good. They beat Florida, they beat Seton Hall, they beat Ole Miss. They lost to Sam Houston State to start out the season. They lost to Texas by 1 point to start out conference play. They lost to Iowa State by 3 at home. I mean, it's an above average team. But when are they good at it? When you look at the Big 12, they're probably a lower half team. But when they're complete and you're not, they're better than you. I think the discrepancy really is the 3-point shooting. I mean, I think they make 9 threes. You made 2. Yeah. That really, if you want to like dumb down the game, that right there just sums it up. You just had no perimeter threat at all. And your 2 made threes were from Robert Jennings, his second of the entire season, and DeMorion Williams, who just, other than against Jackson State, it hasn't shot many of those in a Red Raider uniform, and he does bury one at the end. But you were 2 of 18 and without a lot of true threat. And O'Banner just picked a night where usually he's good for 1 or 2 of those, but he played 44 minutes, against the Sooners. And it's just like, I think he got tired and all that, but that's really because go back and look at Kansas. Kansas makes 11 threes against you. So we talk about no middle defense and you're struggling on defense. At times against Oklahoma, I thought you played pretty good and connected, but other times it was disjointed. You allowed drives and then just skip past to the corner. And if they're knocking them down, you're in trouble. And Oklahoma did that repeatedly. And that's kind of where the game was won, just a lot more firepower to not near enough.
Well, you're going to need another superhuman kind of effort if you hope to combat that Hilton magic as they go baggy sleeves on us, typically from Ames, Iowa. We got some more time to discuss that matchup coming up, and we'll pivot up ahead. You thought that was a tough conversation. This is like the scene in the Old West where the guy gives you a shot of whiskey and a rag to bite on so you don't chew through your tongue. We're talking Texas Christian playing for the national championship in football, American. I'm still having trouble processing it all. And even worse, if you're interested in a viable, healthy, vibrant Big 12 conference, should you be rooting for them? We provide some counsel coming up next on Locked On Texas. But first, today's episode brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. So go there now to get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league in the world. Pro football playoffs knocking at the door. College football national championship we're getting to. It's happening. Are you ready? Big 12 hoops all the way to March Madness. Tiddlywinks, underwater basket weaving. I've offered this coverage to you before. Nobody's bought that show just yet, but they've got it right now at BetOnline. Always the fastest and easiest way to keep up with your favorite events and your favorite teams. Your HQ for live betting, stats, and scores. Now with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more with BetOnline. The game starts. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day with Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan, coming at you from the west side of the 100th Meridian, where it's really going down. And Chris, we're show with just an entirely uncomfortable conversation because while I'm not chant your conference's name at a football game fan just yet, I've never given two damns about the Big 12 outside of Lubbock, Texas. I do feel some compulsion as the Big 12 has been under assault from within. This is like your president lobbing a grenade at you whenever Texas says, sorry, boys, we're shutting the door. Feeling somewhat compelled to root for the conference. Unfortunately, as you and I sit here getting ready for the college football playoff national championship, that means the team that we share a state with in the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. I know your diss burns white hot. Just lie whenever it comes to the college football national title game.
Yeah, this has been interesting for a lot of us that follow this stuff closely. We know some of the people involved here, and Sonny being directly involved. But I'd be curious. So ultimately, at the end of the day, because the game is tonight, are you rooting for the conference and TCU, or are you just kind of, hey, I'm just going to watch. If they win, hey, great. If they lose, I'll, such is life. I mean, what is your, at the end of the day, what is your true thought process about that game at SoFi Stadium tonight?
Ain't cutting me a check either way, I guess. And I think the conference, if you have any care about the conference, has already made some argument by just getting to the national championship game. But to answer your question, in like a semifinal setting, which is where I really enjoy disappointed Michigan fans. I love your Wolverine tears. Like, I truly enjoy that when that happens. And I found myself rooting for Sonny Dykes, Max Duggan, and Texas Christian. And I guess I should just go ahead and transfer that on to the national championship game, Chris, because who wouldn't love to see the SEC taken down? Now, from my Texas Tech perspective, because that's what matters to us. Obviously, that's what this little here says, Locked On Texas Tech. I am fearless. Beat the best to be the best. If Texas Christian wins a national title and that keeps you from being as big and bad as you could be, well, you're never going to be big and bad in the first place, is my general brave face motif. All right. Do I really buy that entirely? Yeah. I don't know. But I think that's what I'd tell my team. So I guess I'm saying I'm wanting the Frogs to win this. I just said that out loud. I did just say that out loud. Wow.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, because I mean, those are.
There's a long-winded answer for you.
Well, and that's a banner that flies for forever, and it's probably bigger than most banners. Here's my other question, because I've thought about this too. Do we want to pretend that as a Texas Tech alum, that when you were sitting there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, that TCU fans were sitting at home rooting for you to finish off the University of Virginia and win a national championship? Or were they like, please, God, no, please don't let Texas Tech win a national championship? See, that's where, and I get the conference part. I get the I get, I've known Sonny for a long, long time. He's great people. Talked to him before the game, in Fort Worth, and we had a good conversation. But because this game, basketball is a bit different. It can be kind of quirky because of the tournament setting. Football is a bit different in that this is the hardest club to get membership to here. Okay. It's typically been a handful of blue blood teams, say 8 to 10, over the last 30 to 40 years that have kind of taken turns playing for and winning this stuff. And even Clemson was kind of a new guy several years ago. They'd won one, I think, in the 80s, but they were kind of the new guy that kind of cracked the code and kind of started being in the mix regularly. But this is a tough club to get an invitation to, man. And if TCU pulls this off tonight, I mean, it is, and they are, because make no mistake, all the pressure is on Kirby Smart's team and Stetson Bennett. They were expected to be here and expected really to win it. And they're a heavy favorite. And, the people have kind of not enjoyed the TCU's playing with house money. This is gravy. No, they're you hear a lot of that's bothered that camp quite a bit. Know that they're there to try to win this thing. But I don't know. I don't know if I could sit there and root for I feel like this. Ultimately, this is in my heart of hearts, because I'll be in Ames. I'll be in Ames tonight. But I feel like I will ultimately really just sit back and just kind of watch it and just see how it plays out. I don't know if I'll be rooting for or against. I just kind of want to sit back, and maybe it's a good game, maybe it's not. And there may be something early on in that game that somebody does that will kind of change my attitude. But I can't sit here in my heart of hearts and tell you, oh man, I'm really rooting for TCU. I just can't do it. I just that's not. Yeah. I'd be lying to you if I said that. So, and I'm not gonna do that. So number one
rooting interest for me is a great game. If Georgia and so I don't want a Texas Christian loss at the expense of a great game. I'd rather have a great game than a Georgia blowout 48-0 over the Frogs, just because I have some extreme dislike of the Frogs. If it was the Aggies, that'd be a different answer. And that's really where I'm cooking up my rooting interest. No BS. I think about all of these people that I've known as Aggies or Longhorns over the years and how much they care about their team being good or bad, or how much they care about their team getting beaten by Texas Tech more often than not since World War, I don't know, one of them. They were both a long time ago. And I sit here and I think about Texas Christian in the same way. I try to, because I've never known a Texas Christian fan. I've never known of Texas Christian fans to give a rat's ass what their teams are doing anyway. I have no heat cooked up. I really don't. We fight over leather. It's a nice saddle. I like to keep the saddle in West Texas and just like to win the game in general. But you've got a little bit more of a local beef originating from where you grew up, right? I would imagine that I do.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks, relatives, a lot of folks that went to TCU. So and that will be at this game tonight in person. So, but oof. Yeah, I know. But this is the kind of the holy grail, man. You win a national championship, and I don't want to discount baseball, because that is a massive deal as well. But winning a Final Four, winning a national championship in football, I mean, those are, do I dare say they count different, or that they're just they make more news? I think. But it and Sonny said it in his press conference. I mean, he's like, I'm sure that there's people in Lubbock and Manhattan and in, Ames or in Waco that are saying, hey man, if we can do it, then if they can do it, then we can do it too. And that's probably true. And it's going to be easier access here in a couple of years to get to this point. However, you could make the argument that in some ways it's going to be harder to win it, in some ways if you're one of those last teams to get in, because you've got to win 3 games, to get in. Whereas TCU is just, and man, you just look at those matchups, and so much was made about Michigan's offensive line, and it just looked like it was MIA, man. And and their star running back, Blake Corum, was hurt. Now they beat up Ohio State without him, but maybe it was just that they caught they got a great matchup. But Michigan was undefeated at the time, and TCU just worked them. In my opinion, they were just clearly better, faster, and that's what TCU. That's why you hear Joey McGuire preaching about wanting to sign and in the pursuit of adding speed to his team, because TCU has it in spades. They're fast everywhere. There's a variety of guys that can take it and go, and they're just gone. It's touchdown. Their defense is extremely fast. Their scheme gives them a bit of an identity, and so I think Georgia's going to have their hands full against the Horned Frogs tonight. And I can't. Again, it's shocking to say that. And is there anything more or less college football than Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium, where they don't allow tailgating and all that? I mean, it is like there's nothing that suggests that this is not college football than playing it in Los Angeles. If you're not going to have it at the Rose Bowl or whatever, the Coliseum or anything like that, no, you're playing at SoFi Stadium. No tailgating in the parking lot, folks. I mean, that is the most un-college football thing ever.
Which is so perfect for college football's silly-ass farcical postseason that is soon to be improved. Yeah, we're talking about the only building with a roof I've ever seen a lightning delay actually take place. That's true. It actually happened once upon a time. I think it was a Raiders-Chargers game, if I'm not mistaken. Got a roof, lightning delay. Thought that's why we built the roof. Nah, forget about it. Don't ask questions and make you look stupid. I love to see national narratives crumble. I love to see media propaganda machines grind to a halt, and that's exactly what happened when Texas Christian slapped around a blue blood from the Big Ten. So I guess to deliver that, because that's what I love the most, that has to mean Texas Christian is winning the game over Georgia. So that's what I'm angling for. I just don't hate them quite enough personally, on a personal level, to really feel like that should rule above all. So I'll say, screw you, Texas Christian. Best of luck in the college football playoff national championship. Chris, could I get all emotion aside? Could I get a pick out of you? Because I'm actually thinking the dogs are covering here if I had to actually deliver a pick. What do you think?
I think 13.5 points is 13.5 points is way too much. I was, and I think it may be even down to 12 and a half. I think Georgia wins a really close game personally. I think this is like, how about 33-30 Georgia? Yeah, and I bet Georgia sweats it out. Yeah, I bet Georgia sweats this one out just like they did against Ohio State. I mean, again, TCU, man, they're I just think Duggan is kind of got this it factor, and he just is not going to be rattled. He's not going to make many mistakes. It may not look pretty at times, but I'm telling you, when Georgia gets out there, and Kendre Miller playing or not playing is a big deal, though. I mean, if he can't go, that's a problem for TCU. But Amari DiMercado, I think, is the young man's name, that went for 150 yards against Michigan in relief of an injured Kendre Miller. No, he's certainly good too. And I think I've heard this story. His house is literally like within walking distance of SoFi Stadium. This is a kid who literally grew up, and he walks out his front yard and he can look at the SoFi Stadium and the Forum in LA and all these different things. That's how close he is to that. So, from growing up in LA to playing for a national championship, literally like 5 minutes away from your house. Pretty cool.
I am insanely envious watching the semifinal and how live that was. So I can't wait to be there with Joey McGuire in very, very short order. I'm sure, man. It's been a great playoff so far. Hope we have another wild and crazy game as far as the national title game is concerned. And, man, you take down the Big Ten, you take down the SEC as the Big 12. I'm just seeing like that scene where Elaine Bennis shows up to Sue Ellen Mishke's wedding in India, and she's there with her jackass. Great. Like the Big 12 busted in the door on the Big 10 and the SEC. There would be something sweet about that if they can actually pull it off. So, too early to tell as we have this conversation. Can't wait to find out, though.
Shout out to the candy bar heiress, Sue Ellen Mishke. Yes. Yeah, she was their family was big candy bar people, right?
Sweet area.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. The O. Henry heiress.
There you go. I love it. Love it.
Have her try on the bra. Okay, that's a different show. Not Locked On Texas Tech, Locked On Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Still trying to sell that one as well. Hadn't got anybody to pick it up, but I'm the man for one of those. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Texas Tech your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. We hope that you'll make Locked On Basketball your second listen. Brand new podcast out of the Locked On Podcast Network. Stable, everything to know about college hoops in one place, on YouTube, wherever podcast. Chris, I think the next time we talk, you'll be in Ames, Iowa, getting set for Big 12 contest number 4 for the Red Raiders. Travel safe, man.
That's right. Accurate. I'll be in Ames with the Red Raiders. But, man, keep hope alive. Appreciate you spending some time with me and enjoy the game tonight. Should be fun. A lot of pomp and circumstance with the Natty on the line, man. We'll see what happens if it's Big 12 or the SEC.
That's right. We'll be back to discuss it all and get ready for the next go-round, 2023 with Joey McGuire, the Red Raiders in the Big 12 Conference, making an appearance in a way too early top 25 poll. Could it be? We may get to that later on. Wait and see. For Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Back here on the other side. We'll see you then on Locked On Texas Tech.